Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Miss Glossner and Miss Lacey for the 5th grade math night presentation. We're going to do two things with you here tonight. We're going to explain a game called Multiplication War, and then we're also going to show you a strategy called the area model for multiplication. So the first thing you will need should have come in your supply bag. You will need the directions for Multiplication War. Okay, and you will also need the pack of playing cards that came with it. So you'll need these two items. All right, I'm going to go down over the directions for you and explain to you what you need to do to play the game. There's actually 3 different versions of the game that you can play. We're going to start with the simplest version of the game and then build ourselves up to the hardest. So the very first thing you'll need to do is you have to pull out the cards from the packet, and you want to take out all the kings, all the queens, and all the jacks. You'd also want to remove the 2 jokers that come in the pack, but for each of the 4 suits, go ahead and remove the kings, the queens, and the jacks. We'll add these back in later for the second version of the game. All right, so once you have done that, then you should have all of the cards that start with aces. For this part of the game, an ace is going to be a 1. And then you should have all the way up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And each of those cards will be the value that's on the card. So an ace is a 1, a 2 is a 2, and so on, all the way up to 10. All right, after you have those cards ready, you took out the kings, queens, and jacks, and you took out the jokers, then you're going to shuffle the cards. This is a 2-player game, so you will need a partner. All right, so after you shuffle the cards, just like in a regular game of war, the players are going to place the cards face down in a pile in the center of the table. All right, at the count of 3, both players will flip over their first card. The first person to say the product of the 2 cards receives both cards and puts them in a separate pile. So we used a math vocabulary term there, the word product. A product is an answer to a multiplication problem. So for example, if Miss Lacey and I were playing this game together and we flipped over a 10 and we flipped over a 6, okay, the first one of the 2 of us that shouts the answer to this 10 times 6 problem gets to keep the cards. 60. So there, Miss Glossner got the points for that, so she gets to keep the cards. Okay. On the next round, on the next round, let's say we flip over a 7 and a 5. And this time Miss Lacey shouts out
35.
Okay, so Miss Lacey would get to keep these cards on that time because she beat Miss Gloucester and got 7 times 5. Okay, let's say on the 3rd round, there's actually a tie. So we flip over an 8 and a 3. And both Miss Lacey and I know 8 times 3 is
24.
24.
Oh,
right?
I won.
We said it at the exact same time. So these cards actually have to go in the middle pile somewhere, or a pile separate, because whoever wins the next round will get all 4 of the cards. So in the next round, we flip over an ace, and I know an ace is worth 1, and we flip over a 4. 1 times 4 is 4.
4.
So Miss Gloucester said it first, so Miss Gloucester gets this pile plus the 2 from before. Okay, so it's basically just like a regular game of war, except that this time we're multiplying rather than just seeing who has the highest card. Another way that, so the winner of the game is the person who has the most cards at the end. After all of the cards are gone, then the winner is whoever has the most cards. Another way that you could make this a little harder is you can add back in the jack, the queen, and the king. Okay, so we would make a jack worth an 11. So if I had a jack and a 5, I would do 11 times 5 to get 55. we're going to put the queen back in, and the queen is going to be a 12. So if I pulled a queen and a 4, I would have to do 12 times 4 is 48. Now, I can give you two options for the king. The directions say to make the king a 13, but we don't normally do mental math with multiplying by 13. So if you think your child is ready for multiplying by 13, go ahead and challenge them and put that 13 in. If you're not quite sure that they're ready for a 13, then make the king a 0 and have them practice their 0 multiplication facts. Okay, and then on the paper, there is also another alternative called a variation. It says at the count of 3, both players flip over 2 cards each. Each player multiplies their 2 cards together. Whoever has the highest product gets to keep all 4 cards. So for that example, let's say I flip over a 10 and a queen. And I know this means 12 times 10 would be 120. And Miss Blasey flips over a jack and a 9. Okay, jacks were 11 times 9 would be 99. My 120 beats her 99. So Miss Glossner would get all 4 cards. All right, so there is 3 different ways all to play the same game called Multiplication War. And parents, this would be a very easy way to practice the students' multiplication facts. It's also hopefully a fun way, a competitive way for them to practice their multiplication facts. And I always like to tell parents in 5th grade, students need to know their multiplication facts in 5th grade. So much of the math that we do in 5th grade all comes back to multiplication. And if they don't know their basic multiplication facts, then whatever skill we're working on becomes twice as hard for them, because first they have to get the fact and then they have to apply it to the skill that we're working on. We just finished a volume unit earlier this week. Volume is basically multiplication, multiplying length times width times height. So the students that knew the multiplication facts could go right to the skill of volume. If they didn't know their multiplication facts, then they really had to go back and figure that out and then apply it to the volume unit. We're starting a fractions unit. We are going to be multiplying and dividing fractions. And to do that, you need to know how to multiply. So please, parents, if you could play this game with them and practice their multiplication facts, it will help us out in the classroom, and it will definitely help your child out with the rest of the 5th grade math. All right, we were also asked to share a math strategy with you. And the strategy Miss Blasey and I picked was using the area model for multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and hopefully you will see a whiteboard. Okay, Miss Blasey, do you see that whiteboard?
I sure do.
Okay, so we're going to show parents a way to do some more difficult math. So let's say we start with the problem of 24 times 5. All right, well, 24 times 5 is not really a mental math fact. You're not going to find 24 times 5 on a multiplication chart. So we're going to show you the area model for how your child could solve this problem. What you want to do is start with the number 24, since it's the largest number, and we're going to think about place value, and we're going to decompose this number. Well, 24 is the same as 20 plus 4. You've got 2 10s and 4 1s. So once I've decomposed that number, I can make what's called an area model. Okay, I'm going to do the 20 plus 4 on the top. And then I'm going to multiply each of these by 5. And I've separated my area model. In this box here, you're going to find the product or the answer to 20 times 5. Well, I know that 2 times 5 is 10, but since this is 20 times 5, then I know it's 100. Okay, and then I also need to multiply the 4 times the 5, and I know hopefully I know my facts and I know 4 times 5 is 20. Now, these are both called partial products. 100 is a partial product and 20 is a partial product. To find the answer to 24 times 5, I'm going to add my two partial products together, and 100 plus 20 is equal to 120. And now I know the answer to 24 times 5 is 120. All right, I'm going to try that again with a slightly harder number. I think this time I'll do 32 times 8. Again, I want to start by decomposing the largest number. Decomposing simply means breaking it apart into my place value. 32 is 30 plus 2. And then I'll start my area model. I'll put 30 plus 2 on the top. And I know that I'm going to be multiplying that by 8. So times 8. And go ahead and separate the boxes. In this first box, I have to do 30 times 8. Well, I know 3 times 8 is 24. So if it's 30 times 8, then I'm going to be getting 240. And then I've got to do the 2 times 8. And 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, I have my partial products of 240 and 16. Add them together. And I should get 256. Which means 32 times 8 is 256. Now, parents, I'm going to show you how this connects to what Miss Blasey and I have been working on with volume in the 5th grade math lessons. I'll leave this up here just for a minute in case anybody is jotting the strategy down. Parents, you'll definitely want to know this for especially math homework in the future, as well as lessons in math class. All right, so I'm going to clear my screen here. Okay, Miss Blasey, you still see the screen?
Yes.
All right, so we've been working on volume, and we know that volume is length times width times height. Now, I would say that the majority of 5th graders by now can tell you this formula. But what Miss Blasey and I have noticed is that they are having trouble not with telling you length times width times height, and not even with finding length, width, and height on the actual drawing of the shape of the prism. They're having trouble with the multiplication. Okay, so let's start with a problem here. Let's do 8 times 6 times 3. Okay. I always tell the students to try to find compatible numbers or friendly numbers, numbers that they already know the answer to. Maybe they can multiply them in their head. I like to look for numbers that are going to end in a product or an answer that ends with a 0 or a 5. Unfortunately, with this problem, we don't have that. So with this problem, most of the kids are going to start with 6 times 3. Because hopefully they know that 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, now that leaves them with a problem of 8 times 18. Again, this is not a problem that is a mental math problem. It's not going to be found on their multiplication chart anywhere. So they need to know how to solve this problem. Okay, again, let's decompose our largest number. Let's break it down. 18 is 10 plus 8. So I will set up my area model. I will do 10 plus 8 on the top. And then I will multiply by 8 going down the side. Split it up into your boxes. First, you're going to do 10 times 8. They should be able to count by 10s 8 times to know 8 times 10 is 80. But then they also still have to do 8 times 8. And 8 times 8 is 64. So I've got partial products of 80 and 64. Let's add those together. And if I did the math right, that should be 144. And what that means is if I'm doing length times width times height of 8 times 6 times 3, then that is 144. And it would be cubic units or cubic inches or whatever the label was. So let's do another one. Let's say our length times width times height for the next one. We're going to go even bigger. Okay, we're going to say the length is 12 inches. The width is 7 inches. And the height is 2 inches. Okay. Some kids might do 7 times 2 first. I'm going to do 12 times 7 first. Okay, I can find 12 times 7 on a multiplication chart. If I know my basic facts, I know that 12 times 7 is 84. And now I still have to do 84 2 times. Okay, some kids might use the strategy of just adding 84 plus 84, but if you want to see it on an area model, I would decompose 84. I would get 80 plus 4. And then I would have to multiply that by 2. So my area model is 80 plus 4 on the top. And then multiply by 2 coming down the side. 80 times 2, well, I know 8 times 2 is 16, but if it's 80 times 2, then it would have to be 160. And I know 4 times 2 is 8. If I take the partial products of 160 and 8 and I add them together, I get the answer of 168, or the product of 168. And then I know that 12 times 7 times 2, I'm going to have to squeeze it in right here, is 168. Okay. Now this would be something you could even use when you're playing the multiplication war game. If you decide to add the kings in and you make the kings worth 13, your child could use the area model to multiply like 13 times 8. They would decompose the 13 down into 10 plus 3, and then multiply both of those with 8. All right, I'm going to show you 2 more problems, but I'm going to make these even harder. And parents, I'm going to show you the traditional way we're used to multiplying and the way we were taught how to multiply versus the area model that some of your children may be bringing home. And I'm going to show you that the area model is not new math. It's just doing the old math that we already know in a new way. Okay, let me clear my screen. And for this one, we're going to do length times width times height. We're going to go way harder than we did before. Okay, we're going to start with a length of 12. We'll say feet, a width of 6, and a height of 8. Okay, now a lot of kids, to solve this problem, they would start with 6 times 8 because it's a basic fact. Okay, 6 times 8 is 48. But now I need to do 12 times 8. So we're ending up here with a 2-digit number multiplied by another 2-digit number. To do this, the students actually need to decompose both the 12 and the 48. So 12 is 10 plus 2. And then 48 is the 40 plus the 8. So when they create their area model this time, there's going to be more steps. There's going to be more boxes. All right, I'm going to start with my 10 plus 2 on the top. And then I'm going to put my 40 plus 8 on the side. That's a little sloppy there. Sorry about that. Okay, 40 plus 8. So I'm now going to have 4 boxes for this that need answers. All right, watch what I do here. So I'm going to start with 10 times 40. Right? Well, I know 1 times 4 is 4, but it's 10 times 40. So I have those 2 extra place values. That's going to be 400 in the first box. And then I also have to take the 2 and multiply it by the 40. Well, 2 times 40 is 80. Okay. Now I'm going to take the 10, I'm going to go all the way around the back, and I got to do 10 times 8. 10 times 8 is 80. And finally, I have to do the 2 times 8, which is 16. All right, you now, oops, sorry about that. You now have 4 partial products, all of which need to be added together. So I'd like to go across here. So 40 plus 80 is going to give me 480. And then 80 plus 16 will give me 96. I'm going to add it together. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 tens and 9 tens, or 80 plus 90 is 170. So I'd put the 70 down, regroup the 100, and then 400 plus 100 is 500. So you get a product of 576, which means 12 times 6 times 8 is 576. Now, parents, I'm going to show you the traditional way that we learn and show you, surprisingly, that we get the exact same thing.
Ms. Glossner, can I chime in real quick?
You may.
Parents, you might want to move your picture just so you can see what Ms. Glossner is writing on the right side of the screen.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay, just a reminder.
Okay, so we ended up with 48 times 12. Okay, now we were taught this way. This is called the standard or the traditional algorithm. And we learned 2 times 8 is 16. Put the 6 ones down, regroup the 10. 2 times 40 is 80, plus 10 more makes 90. That makes 96. Then we learned this little trick of dropping a 0 or adding a 0 to, mark our ones place. We didn't really know why we were doing it. We were just dropping a 0. And then we did 10 times 8 is your 80. And 10 times 40 is your 400. And we add this together. And guess what? We also get 576. So parents, this is not new math. It's simply a new way of looking at the old math. We learned the standard traditional algorithm. Your children will start off by learning the area model. We will eventually move to this, but we want them to learn this first because it's a more visual way and a way to look at place value. So if we look at this, we had a 96 over here as a partial product from 80 and 16. You had a 96 over here. Okay, we got partial products of 480. You have a partial product of 480 over here. And we end up with the product of 576. So it's all the same math, just this way is much more visual and focuses on place value. I'll be honest with you, parents, when I learned this and drop a 0, I had no idea why I was doing it. I had no idea that it was marking my ones place because now I was multiplying by tens. It took me until I was a teacher to learn that's why I was doing that. All I learned was a set of procedures and steps. This is what you do first, second, third, and so on. Hopefully your children are able to focus more on the place value of the problem than just on the steps. Okay, let's do one more and then we will close it out for the evening. So if we have a length times width times height, let's do, Miss Lacey, you want to throw one out there?
So you just want some numbers, Ms. Glossner?
Yep, but I would make them harder numbers.
Okay. How about 9 times 8 times 7?
Okay. All right. So knowing my students, I would say some of them would probably do 9 times 8 first. So they would get 9 times 8 is 72. And then they still have to do 72 times 7. Okay. So this would go back to just the 2 box. We would decompose 72 to be 70 plus 2. And then we multiply that by 7. So 70 plus 2. And then the 7. All right, I have to start off by multiplying 70 times 7. Well, I know 7 times 7 is 49. So if I do 70 times 7, it should give me 490. And then I have to do 2 times 7, which is 14. These are my 2 partial products, 490 plus 14. If I add them together, I should get 504. Miss Lacey, check my math, please.
I agree.
So what that means is 9 times 8 times 7 is the product of 504. All right, parents and students. So what we've tried to show you here tonight is how to play the game called Multiplication War. Okay, remember there are 3 different versions of the game that the kids can play. I really think this will help them get a lot quicker with their multiplication facts and hopefully a lot stronger with their multiplication facts. And then Miss Lacey and I also showed you the area model for multiplication. And again, you're going to see this coming home for homework as well as on some of their math class papers. We'd like to thank you for coming out for math night tonight. We hope that you enjoyed the multiplication war game, and we hope that you found the strategy that we taught to be useful. And we hope you like the trunk or treat, and we will see you next time. Thanks for coming out, and we hope you have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.